Just so we discussed it, I went back in there with the H7 to mark it properly this time, and the hex shaft came out like 2 inches out of the hole. I don't know, it's a little more wobbly now. It's supposed to be connected to something. But I'm just going to wing it, and hopefully we don't blow this thing up. So I'll let you guys know what happens. So the final status on that water pump shaft in there is I put my H7 in there, and the H7 catches it really quickly. It won't let it go even, the shaft. So once you push the shaft back in, it doesn't go right to left very hard. It just has a bit of play, which, because I'm pretty sure the power steering pump is attached to it, it's still functioning properly and it's okay in there. I'm just telling you guys what's going on. That hex shaft has more little bit of jiggle than it did when I started this job. Maybe this is fine, because even on the water pump side, that hex shaft in the middle there was really tight until I turned it once with a ratchet, and then it loosened up and I could turn it by hand. So these could just be products of weird old Audi stuff. I'll let you guys know what happens. You'll see. Well, I pretty much know the point of things are getting bad and it's not working. So the shaft's in there, it's fine, but I am going to separate the silver piece and just use that to find my alignment, because with that silver piece removed, the important part is you can rotate the impeller with your hand on this side and bing, fit it onto the hex shaft. In theory, it sounds right. Let me zip those 4 bolts off, preserve that new gasket, and I'll get back to you. Based on the sensitivity of these things, I would say don't even bother. Anything I've done in the past, I don't know what, 5 minutes when this gets edited, maybe more, because definitely just try with the metal portion with the impeller side access. Because right now when I crack those E-bolts out, these bolts are some of the only ones I didn't replace because I don't know what happened, okay? Maybe I didn't see them when I was writing up my parts list, but they're in good condition because they're hidden behind the water pump. The thermostat ones are new. But the point is, when I cracked it loose right now, there was some silver metal dust on one of the inserts on that side, which means if you had cranked it down just a bit too hard, doing this multiple times is bad. So you really want to get this situated right. Even though I never moved that hex shaft, but it has been a long time and this water pump has moved many times, so God knows. But the point is, get this right so you don't have to keep taking those mini E-Torx bolts in and out. I can't remember what size E-Torx they are right now, but you guys know from the previous parts of the series. The E-Torx, try to just use them once so you don't strip them and you don't damage the insert. Okay, let me get back to it. Okay guys, so silicone grease helped in this case on the metal portions of the other side of that water pump that's in there, which we'll go look at underneath right now. So here's what happened. I held the body of so the silicone grease goes on that metal male side and the, oh my god, these cars are, I can't use those words on the internet. Just put silicone grease on whatever is going to touch those 2 gaskets that go in there, because your insertions could tear them. That's what I'm trying to say. But with your left hand, turn the impeller as it goes in so that the hex bit catches onto the hex shaft. You will audibly hear the hex shaft if it is engaged when you're turning the impeller with your left hand. Okay? Don't take that hex shaft all the way out because you don't know what's going on with the other stuff at the other end. I still don't know. We'll find out. But this worked. It's a skillful affair. Okay? You really gotta you gotta have good feel to work on Audis. Okay? This is not novice mechanic stuff. But I want you to focus on where the bolts go in. So dead center of your screen. So not dead center. Right there, you see everything flushes up. So if you have any gap, which is what I had for a long time, you do not want that. The bolt, those bottom ends have to sit down. Now the part that's going to piss me off is if I take this straight out, attach it again, because it is impossible to get 2 of those bolts in from the back. if you try to reinstall the backside of the water pump from this position, okay? It is just not possible. Like, impossible. So I have to remove it. Hope everything stays in line. Try it again. I'll let you know what happens. But I'm pulling it straight out now. It is an absolute pain to pull this back off right now. I have no idea why. But I'm not going to be retarded, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go find a marker, and I'm going to... See, I don't have a white marker. Of course, they have to make the impeller out of some black plastic, and... Man, these cars will test you. But you need to run a marker on the inside there. From the impeller position onto the inside of the metal base, so that you don't lose your spot when you pull it out. Because you can damage this water pump if you put those screws in too much or not. So this time I'm not going to skimp out and think I can figure it out. I am going to find a marker first before I continue and mark it on the inside of the water pump. This is way more messed up than I thought. So I marked it with a pencil. I was able to get a pencil to show on both the impeller and the metal side. Once I popped it off though, look who came out with it. The entire hex shaft just jumped out too. So, I don't know if I should keep the hex shaft out and send it in with a water pump. Yeah, maybe I should do that. Bro, these cars are nuts. They're nuts. You see, I put the hex shaft back inside the car because there's no way I'd get it in this way. I don't really know what to do at this point because the hex shaft is loose, just a hair in there. It wasn't loose at all before. So this is something we'll only find out with driving it if it's supposed to be like that or not. So, yeah. Okay, I hope you're with me. Before this is continuation. I am still filming everything, okay? So see my pencil markings there? Yeah, you see them. In theory, this is what my water pump looks like after that violent removal I just told you of. I put the hex shaft back in there. I'm not going to try it again, okay, because it's starting to get messed up for my seals and for my bolts on my water pump side because I have to fully install that. And you have to deal with that hose. Like this is just a cluster F of a job, right? Putting it back. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this all back together and hope that it works because in theory, that shaft should have gone back in the same spot. Nothing moved inside there. You know, you're not strong enough to get in there with the tips of your fingers and move the shaft to move the power steering pump or whatever else it's connected to. So as long as that looseness of the shaft is not a big deal in there, that bit of looseness, we should be back in business. So let me put the cap on this one more time. Hoping to God I don't strip no bolts, and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, so what happened here? I put it on, and again, the alignment marks that I told you were fine. My first time around that I've done it right now, okay? So that was a good thing. But still, there was 2 millimeters of a gap between the... That's what I'm talking about right there. Okay, center your screen. That's just one of them for reference point. You have about 2 of them down here. But those metal pieces need to be touching the metal pieces on the other side. I had a couple millimeter gap like I told you. One more confident push thunk and it sat in. But don't force it. You guys have seen what I've been going through, okay? Again, like I said, this is just a skillful. You got to be able to do these complex jobs and know when to push, when not to push kind of things and luck out. Still, this is the beginning of us lucking out here. I've put on like one decently good component and we are already wondering if this is even going to work. And yeah, that crack does look a lot worse there on that bottom piece because the light's shining into it, but I assure you it's not that bad and it seals just fine. We've been through all this crap, looked at in detail at every one of these parts a million times in other videos, so I'm not going to get into it. But don't start crying if you see stuff and think I haven't seen it. I've seen everything there is to see on this car and it's in decent enough condition to keep soldiering on with its parts. Now, yeah, and even after all this time, after a year, look at this. Some coolant fell on my hair. Guess that's just part of it. While I was doing this, I didn't even rustle anything up. Okay, let's now I'm gonna try to deal with that hose way up there. Yeah, time to put the clamp. Oh my god, I didn't even put the clamp on it, did I? Is the clamp on there? Yo, I don't think the clamp is on there. No, I have to take it off again. No. Well, I got pissed off there for no reason. The clamp is on there, but it's hidden between those two wires in the middle of your screen. So when we took it off, it was easier because it was through that porthole there. But now it's way too far in there, so I have to remove the whole water pump again. I have to hope I click it in again correctly. And I'm going to see if I can pass that. No, you know what? Screw the Audi design. I am not going to pain myself over this. I have Gates hose clamps, and we're going to try a silicone hose clamp on EPDM, okay? Which is another test of this channel yet again, okay? Some of you might be going, no, don't do it, but I've tried a lot of stuff on this channel, and a lot of it has worked. So, and for those of you who are interested, yeah, these are EPDM hoses. Those are silicone hose clamps, the Gates ones that I have. I'm going to put a Gates hose clamp on there, and we are going to see if that works, because you can see right here, it's a straight shot with an extension and a 5/16 to tighten that. I am not in the business of masochistic pain, okay? I'm not dealing with that 2-ear hose clamp again in that way. So I'm going to remove the water pump. Because see, the thing is with the worm clamp, I can put it right where I want it as I push that on and then keep going, because that 2-ear clamp is not going to go over the secondary bead, the holder bead for the end of the hose, so that I can move it back up again. It's too much crap in my way. So I'm just going to use a Gates hose clamp, and if we ever need to remove this, if we have problems here, it's going to be a lot easier, and we're only going to have to spend tons of money on the parts, possibly, and not the painful labor. You guys who've been watching remember what I went through with that 2-ear hose clamps. So, if you haven't found a remote hose clamp plier that works like I have, you know what? I'm done giving a shit about this car's that stuff. Okay, I have to remove it again, and I'll be back with you guys. Hopefully the water pump clicks in. So for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that 2-ear clamp used to be in between those two white lines when we took it off, and that was already a pain enough, but it was possible with needle nose pliers. I'm not getting into that, but I'm saying this is the only place you can put it when you put it back, and there's no access to it, which is why I'm resorting to this other method. Now I could be using a normal worm clamp. I do have them, but I'm not going to, because I want to test and see this whole EPDM silicone stuff, how big of a deal it really is to use the other style hose clamp. Because if you think about it, okay, a 2-ear hose clamp like this constant velocity does not dig into the hose at all. It's almost like a silicone hose clamp. Now, I don't care about what some people say that they expand and they don't with the hose, blah, blah, blah. These EPDM hoses glue themselves for the most part to aluminum. All right, the clamp only does so much. So in theory, based on what's on here with the constant velocity, with a completely smooth surface, a silicone hose clamp should work just fine. So that's what we're going to use, a Gates silicone hose clamp. I won't repeat it again. There really is no winning with this crap. Even with that hose clamp, if you tighten it, there's always clearance issues because of the screw. So I'm going to open it way up wide and put it up on the aluminum hose that's up there. And then I'm going to slide it down afterwards, because in any position you put it here, if you tighten it just a bit, the hose won't slide on. And then if you do manage to slide the hose on, if the screw is in the wrong position, it's just as bad as a 2-ear clamp, but it's not going to be as bad. So I'm going to open this way up wide, put it all the way up onto the aluminum hose, if it passes that bead, which I hope to God it does, and then I'll get back to you. But this is getting fiddly, and it's already could be a pretty catastrophic thing if that shaft was supposed to be more tight than it is, but we'll see. On the last rung of that Gates 1¼ inch maximum diameter hose clamp, fortunately, I was able to slide it up past against the second bead. When I say second bead, I mean the one way down here that the hose finally sits at, not the one that it bubbles over, if that makes any sense. So we're going to be okay putting that clamp on if we don't F other things up in terms of the shaft. So let's hope things are still aligned, and I'm going to try to push this in. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see it there at the top of your screen, the Gates hose clamp with that screw facing right towards me. So a dead shot with a 1 foot extension on a drill and a 5/16. Just don't let that slide down so that you don't have to pull it back up. But it was on that, past that second bead there that you can see on top of it. So I pressed it in again. Fortunately, it all went in. I'm going to tighten that hose clamp, and hopefully we have seated this on the hex bolt properly. If not, I have no idea what we're going to do. But let me tighten that hose clamp down and keep her going. Now, in terms of that short hose, I tightened it before I put the water pump mounting bolts in. You should put the mounting bolts in before you tighten that hose clamp. Nothing really moved, and I had the water pump pressed up against the engine block there, so no problem there. But just want to make note of these intricate things in case we do have issues in the future and we wish we had this information. We do have this information. So I'm going to zip the water pump bolts back in. They're all different sizes, as you will remember. And we'll keep carrying on. I'm going to put the thermostat back on. I'll let you guys know if those T30s worked fine for the updated bolt number or if the dealer gave me the wrong bolts. And just keep it going from there. Okay, I don't know how much more I'm going to film with putting hoses on and stuff, but that stuff's pretty straightforward. This was the real tough, weird part that could be our blowing up the car part when we do our first start. Alright, see you later. In terms of the chafed wire in the center of the screen, I am going to zip tie it to that AC hard line behind it. It goes to the oil level sensor and something around the engine mount, maybe an engine mount sensor. And I don't want it to get damaged, but it looks like it is zip tied from factory in a bunch of spots. So it does have good insulation, so I don't think that AC line is going to cause any problems. But it seems like it's been bouncing on the top of the thermostat housing, hidden back there. Or when it was stored, that looks like a nice spot for a mouse to have gone in there and tried to chew through, which they did not get even too far. So I'm just going to zip tie that to the AC hardline, and we have it on the record in case we ever have an issue with that wiring or something else. So the 4 water pump bolts are in. I did hear a fear-inducing crack, but that could have just been my socket situating itself. So those 4 brand new bolts are in there. I also did want to show you that I've been working with a lot more room. Yeah, I've done the strap for some things in previous videos. I've done this lifting thing, but right now we're sitting on AC coolant O-rings, the hitch, and 3 bricks, and it opens up a lot of space there. And everything at the top here is nice and level. Okay, so nothing is wrong. What I really want to say though is, because of the way I store my stuff differently, so I had a mystery hose clamp, but I always relate the stuff together correctly. And what you need to do next, okay, before you put the thermostat housing on, is reinstall your reservoir and this triplet of hoses. That's the hose, mystery hose clamp, and it goes on this. So this is that hose that I pulled straight up from the service position area that one time. And it sits on that middle piece of the thermostat. It's right upwards, okay? But the crucial thing here is, in order to, again, not get twist and damage your lines like they were by that previous shop for me, the cleanest one, well, not cleanest, I mean, you'll know when you're doing this. What I meant by cleanest one is it will be the cleanest one, okay? Because it's way up at the top. But put your reservoir and hook that all back up, because see, it has another one of those reference line points. And if you don't put this in straight, I don't think that the one on the thermostat, which is attached to these, is going to sit straight. So let's go over to the raggedy reservoir tank, which I should not be reusing, but it's so easy to change that I'm gonna do it later. I just need to get this thing fired up. We'll change that soon, okay? But you see, it's got that plastic. That's more of a structural thing, like you can see on the sides too, but it can also be an alignment dowel in a way, okay? So that line, align it with this. I'm gonna install this stuff on top, and then we will go back down there and do the thermostat finish off stuff. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Just wanted to point that out. So you guys see the RS4 shiny. When I washed this thing in the garage, I didn't use some amateur techniques of 2-bucket methods and all kinds of just dumb methods, okay? You see everything is shiny. You guys have been watching the channel. You know that I've washed it good. I grabbed a hose in winter and I washed the thing like I'd wash it outside. I don't leave no... Okay, I don't need to teach how to wash a car. But the point here is I have been a professional detailer. I am a professional detailer. And the one thing is, when you do engine bay washes, there's a lot of be careful things you have to do, and there is always a risk to it. I would always tell the customers there's a high risk of something happening, because I don't care. The company wants to take responsibility. The person, it doesn't matter. It always becomes nasty. I mean, a cracked coil plug could be enough to cause odd things if you wash it with too much water on here. You don't want to get water on a hot turbo. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that stuff. The point is, I very carefully washed this engine. I have washed this engine at least 3 times in my ownership. Okay? I'm not going to tell you how I do it. You detailers out there know what we do. And the thing is, this is one really crazy part. I was just chilling in the garage, and where the oil change cap is, I opened it up and I saw that there was some water sitting inside of that lip there. And I was like, oh man. Either it's 2 cases. Either it means you can't engine bay wash these things at all, which I really don't want to be the one to find out. I'm not going to really do that. I'm going to avoid that spot in the future. But there was water getting past that seal. Now what this is a OE oil cap gasket. So I'm going to change this gasket, and maybe we'll do a test on this in the future, but like I said, I don't want to do that with my car. But I'm changing that oil cap gasket due to that reason. I just wanted you guys to know that part as well in terms of the washing stuff that I've done. So let me throw some more parts on and we'll get back at it. Okay, a lot of you aren't going to believe me, but the most dangerous piece of this car is this small hose clamp, because you're not going to think much of it when you install it. It actually goes onto that part of the expansion tank there. I can't tell you how many times I've let go of this and it's gone flying across the garage, and I'm like, oh my god, thank god it didn't blind me or something. And how many times I've lost this thing. For some reason it's just a cursed hose clamp, even though it's the smallest, easiest one on top of the engine base. So just an odd thing I thought I'd share there. So on reinstall with the expansion tank, you put the 2 ears at the back on the metal plates in first. Then as you're lowering it down, plug in the sensor, okay? Make sure that hose is in a good spot. And the thing everyone forgets is this vacuum line. There is also a clip on the reservoir. So with your index finger, left hand, index, and thumb, click that into its spot too, because you don't want that vacuum hose hanging around. I'm sure it's hanging around on a lot of these cars. To save annoyances with that clamp I was talking about, you can move it all the way up there. Just get it way opened up, and then slide your hose on completely. Now I know I did say stuff about those lines being alignment tools. I think I've been correct about it, but I mean that one at the top has one and it doesn't align with anything. There's nothing for it to align with. So what I said about the one here, it might be true, it might not, but just things for you to think about. I mean, the people who are watching this video are people who own this and have thoughts and skills. So even if you don't have one and you want one, have thoughts and skills for yourself when you're working on this. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I swear that hose clamp hits different. There's just something about it. Be careful not to pinch your fingers when working with that, or maybe it's easy for you. But for me, for some reason, it's the worst clamp on this whole car. So there is this really crappy style sheathing. Not the sheath in the middle. There's a second sheath and then the hose. Okay, so there's 2 mini sheaths on the left of your screen and right there where I have the clamp right now as I'm trying to move it and not pinch my fingers, which will try to get caught into the clamp even at the open position if you try to roll it back. So if you didn't have to do this, don't do this, because when you jump from sheath to hose, it can get caught and peel that up. I haven't peeled it up, but I just grabbed the camera while it's in the position to show you. So who would have thought this would be so annoying? But I've done this before and it's doable. Just better to show mistakes than successes. So hopefully some of you see the value in that and don't find the videos annoying. Check this out, okay? This hose, I just pulled it out of the Audi packaging and it doesn't match completely in size, which I mean that's an old hose and it could be all worn and messed up, but I don't want to put it on the car, okay? I don't want to take the risk with my body shop special car to take those headlights off. Now the crazy part about what just came from Audi, look inside all that shiny metal. On both sides of this hose, it is full of some kind of manufacturing burrs. I mean, I can only get so much light in there with my phone right now, but you're seeing it shining. That's all throughout the entire hose. So if you do buy new hoses from Audi, make sure to check inside of them so that you don't send a whole bunch of metal particles all the way throughout the cooling system. Not that it's like some drastically terrible stuff, but you just don't do stuff like that, okay? Can't think, yeah, maybe it could damage some sensors in the cooling system. So you know what, even though I paid money for all this stuff, that hose, not changing it. I mean, they align decently. Oh man, yeah, you know what, this one is underneath the headlight. It's not an easy one to get to. We'll go ahead and change it. It should be fine. The metal burrs thing was the weird part. But just so you guys don't think I was onto nothing, look at the curve here. This one you can tell, look at the end, it curves a lot more than the other one. Now the reason I'm running into this kind of stuff is because there could be something wrong with this car. These hoses, man, I don't know. Okay, again, like I said, I'm not going to get into all my whole Audi parts issues that I've had and serious annoyances with trying to get stuff even from them themselves. So here's a final verdict on this one. I am going to use the new hose. It's going to be fine. It is close enough in spec.